Now we're going to get started this morning. So I'm going to try to make this super quick. Most of y'all have volunteered before, so you know how things work, but we're going to just go over a few highlights. And as you can probably have seen by the maps, a few things have changed. So we'll go over those changes once we get going. But first, I'm going to let Lisa and Carol introduce themselves. I guess I should probably introduce myself. I'm Jessica Smith. I am the Director of Community Engagement at United Way, but I serve as the volunteer coordinator for Worlds of Work.
Good morning, I'm Lisa Morales. I'm the Executive Director of East Alabama Works, and we host Worlds of Work. As I get close to Jessica with the microphone. I'll come to you.
Good morning, I'm Carol Kirk, and I work with Eastman. I do community outreach there, and Eastman is our presenting sponsor for Worlds of Work, and I actually chair the Worlds of Work committee. So I'm so excited to see all of you here today. As those of you, how many of you have done this before? Oh, we've got most of the pros here, but we thank you for being here, and you all know that it's somewhat of an organized chaos having 8,000 students here, but we could not do it without our volunteers. So thank you so much for participating. And Jessica, of course, she coordinates all these volunteers, and we'd be lost without her.
Thank you. Okay, get situated again. So, as y'all know, Worlds of Work is next week, March 7th through 9th. That is Tuesday through Thursday here at the Civic Center. You will check in every day actually in this room. So used to, we checked in right outside the room, but we will have our own little check-in area now. So we're excited about that. When y'all arrive each day, the parking, there may be a map in here. So parking for volunteers each day. I know, like I said, many of y'all have done this before and you know where to park. Down by the softball fields, you will see signs that say volunteer parking. That's where you will park. There will be shuttles to run back and forth that can bring you up here. We try to keep them running all the time, so if for some reason you get down there and there's not a shuttle available, just give it a couple of minutes and it'll be there. We do have our WOW t-shirts back there in the corner, so y'all can get yours before you leave today. But if you have coworkers or friends or anybody who is not here, I will be here Monday afternoon after 1 o'clock, probably from about 1 to 4. If they want to come by and get t-shirts then. For those of you who are watching the recording, you're welcome to come by Monday between 1 and 4 to get those shirts as well. Okay, on to our maps. So as you can see, like I said earlier, things have changed a little bit. So upstairs is no more. You don't have to take the kids upstairs. Healthcare has been moved down into Zone 2. So in these classrooms over here in the hallway, what used to be engineering, that is going to be healthcare now. And then Zone 3 is going to be education, training, and engineering, and that's going to be outside. This is the half circle in front of the Civic Center where people park, if that helps give you any better idea of where this is. And then this is the full parking lot. So Zone 4 will be to the left side of the parking lot, and Zone 5 will be to the right side. Does anybody have any questions about that? Does that make sense?
Jessica, what you heard you say earlier, you didn't want to talk about, but is there an alternative plan in the event that we have inclement weather and can't be outside, or what happens there?
So Johnny, great question. We have invested in big, ginormous tents.
Okay.
We have, for construction, it's a 40 by 80 tent. So it's the same size as we've had before. So it's big. For agriculture and natural resources, it's a 40 by 60. The education and training that Jessica's the world leader for, and our engineering and technology world, those are 30 by 60 tents. So we should be able to get all of our students kind of adequately in there. The ones that we do have concerns about, obviously, are public safety. You know, our first responders are a resilient group, and they tend to just want to, and they've got all these vehicles, so it's really hard to get a big tent. Same thing with transportation, but we'll just handle them as best we can. The weather, Carol has been watching it very closely. It will not be 25 degrees this year, so we're happy about that. There is, you know, some chances of rain. If it's a 40% chance of rain, that means it's a 60% chance it won't. We're going to be eternally optimistic. But if something happens, we will bring those students inside, and if we have to hold them, you know, take them upstairs to the second floor, hold them there until we can get to their buses, we'll absolutely do that. If something happens and we need to, you know, remove everybody from the outside, then we will put them wherever we need to, whether it's the gym, the first floor lobby area, the pre-function area upstairs. The Civic Center, fortunately, can you know, hold the majority of those students. So, but thank you for asking that.
As of this morning, it's supposed to be in the low 70s with scattered showers. So we'll hope those scattered showers will wait until after Worlds of Work.
Okay.
Yes, we'll always just adapt and make it work. Okay, so back to the SNAP. This is for the 8th grade day. If you're volunteering on Tuesday or Wednesday, these will be your zones for 8th grade. Because as you know, they rotate between each zone as their group, their backpack color. So this will be 8th grade. If you're volunteering on Thursday, this is the 11th grade map. So they have a little more freedom as to where they can go. The juniors, you know, they know a little bit more about what they want to do as they're graduating high school. So we have found that it's better to just kind of let them explore in the zones in a bigger area and spend more time there so that they can really focus in on what they're interested in. And they're not spending an hour somewhere where they're like, this is not what I want to do. So they only have 3 zones. So their zone 1 will be all of the inside and the semicircle outside. And this is the gym door that goes right outside.
And we've actually taken everything that was on the outside to the side of the gym and moved it to other places.
Okay.
So there won't be anything in that spot.
I gotcha. Okay, so everything inside and the semicircle outside will be the junior day. And then zone 2, as you can see, will be the far left side of the parking lot. And then zone 3 will be transportation, construction, and public safety will all be in the actual parking lot. Any questions about that?
Jessica, is there a concern due to the fact that the 11th graders get to kind of do their own choosing? Is there a concern that too many might want to be in the same space at the same time? Because I know so often they don't like to separate from their friends. They want to stay with their buddies. They get very, you know, they go into cliques, and no matter what you ask them to do, they're going to do pretty much what they want to do.
Right. So with most of that being outside, that shouldn't be an issue. But if it is inside and they seem to get too cluttered in the gym or in the rooms on the side hallway down here, I do encourage y'all as volunteers, if you're a zone volunteer monitoring them, just encourage them to look at other stuff. And the same thing with the 8th graders, you know, if they are in clusters of friends just talking, encourage them to explore different things. We like to say that we have their teachers to help do that, but sometimes that doesn't always happen, and that's okay. That's what our volunteers are for. That's what y'all are for.
Can I offer?
Uh-huh.
So when Worlds of Work first started, our 11th graders were also structured just like the 8th graders with that 5 rotation. And so it was very, much more structured. I think 11th graders, as they've gotten a little bit older, they want a little more freedom. And so we shifted completely for the last couple of years. So those of you that have volunteered before, the last couple of years, I've called it free flowing juniors, where they could go anywhere they wanted. They were here for 2 hours. They could go anywhere they wanted at Worlds of Work. Well, we've reined it back in a little bit, so now they're in 3 different zones. They rotate like the 8th graders. They don't have line leaders. 8th graders have, thanks to Kayla making them, we've got, sticks and signs and, people leading those groups, like maybe some of you all. 11th graders don't have a line leader. Again, just, they're a little bit older, so hopefully when we sound that horn, we just kind of help them move. So not free-flowing, but not as tight as the 8th graders. They'll rotate through 3 zones while they're here, so.
Okay, so here's a little bit of an overview so you can just see what outside looks like. This semicircle up here is what I'm talking about that is still part of zone 2. And then the full parking lot are those other zones. And then this over here, this side is zone 2 for juniors. Sorry, I don't have. Yes, that's going to be 2 for juniors. And this, I keep losing it. This is 3 for 8th graders. And then this is 4. So if that helps a little bit. And there's going to be signs out there. There are flags. If this is your first year, you're not going to get lost. Don't panic about that. A little bit better view. These feather flags you will see everywhere. So they will distinguish between what area is what. So if you happen to have a kid who says, hey, I'm interested in public safety, where do I go? Obviously, you can probably find a fire truck and a police vehicle, but there will be a lovely flag that you can say, go to that area and you'll find what you need over there. These will also be at the volunteer parking, so you'll know where to park. The bus entrance will have these, and all of the outside worlds. And then these lovely cone toppers will be outside to kind of help break apart the zones. So maybe we don't have kids overflowing into the other zones. I know that gets hard outside, but as some of our zone monitors and class guides, we'll go over that in a minute, but we ask that, look for those. They all have colored backpacks. If you see a sea of red backpacks and there's 2 or 3 blue backpacks in there, obviously those blue backpacks don't go with them. So let's find those blue ones and figure out where they need to go. Okay, before we get into questions, I'm going to go through real quick the volunteer responsibilities. So in case you're volunteering for something different than you volunteered for in the past, or if you're new and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing or what I have volunteered for. If you are a zone monitor, our goal with our zone monitors is to help assist the teachers in making sure everybody is interacting with companies, that they, like I said earlier, make sure they're not standing around on cell phones, that they're going up to all of the booths, seeing what's in there, something they might be interested in. And that may be you walking up to them and saying, hey, what do you think you're interested in? And helping them find that area. The zone monitor will have a walkie-talkie. That way, in case anything were to happen, if a kid has a medical emergency, anything like that, at least somebody in that zone has a walkie-talkie, can call back to the first aid station, or anybody can hear that and know to get help to that area. If you think that you'll be outside, I know y'all don't know exactly your zones, and I know some of y'all have said, hey, I don't want to be outside. Some of you enjoy being outside. If you are outside, don't forget sunscreen. If you think you're going to, want to be out there in case it rains, it's not going to, but you might want to be prepared for that as well. The bus parking monitors, I don't know that I have any of those today, but they will help Andy Green with parking the buses, and that is a masterpiece out there. I guess that's the right word, because he absolutely knows what he's doing and knows how to make it happen, makes all the buses flow, everything. Our timekeepers. So we will give you a schedule of when each group should rotate. You will also have an air horn. So at the end of that rotation, you'll blow your air horn. A lot of times you'll hear the air horns in sync. Sometimes they're not in sync, but that's okay. And that lets the class guides know, the zone monitors know that it's time to rotate those kids out of that area. And that will happen with the juniors and the 8th graders. And our class guides, that is going to be 8th graders only. So the class guides will meet the kids at the bus. If you're a class guide, once you check in with me, and get your sign, and I tell you what school you're with, it would be great if you could just go outside into the little covered area to wait on those buses. Oftentimes the buses get here early, and we don't let them start early, but we just kind of need somebody who can stand there with them and say, we'll move you when it's time to move you. Because that gets a little chaotic when they start getting here, and we're always looking for the class guides. So if you're a class guide, I encourage you to try to get here a few minutes early and make sure you're outside ready for those. You will serve as a line leader, basically, for the students. You'll take them to their zones because they don't know what their rotation schedule is going to be, but I will give you their school. Let's say you're with Ohatchee High School. The back of your name tag will actually have the schedule for Ohatchee on it. And you'll know that they start in zone 1 and they'll rotate from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the same thing, if they start in 3, they'll go 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. So that will be in your name tag. Don't panic and think, I don't know where they're gonna go. It'll all be laid out for you. Lunch, the most important thing. I almost forgot it. So as the volunteer break is right around the lunchtime, so if you're volunteering for the morning group and as you're leaving, you can feel free to come in here and grab lunch. Or if you're getting here early for that later time slot, you can come grab lunch before you come check in with me. But if you're gonna do that, make sure you allow enough time that you get here early for that. Because again, we don't wanna be looking for class guides and them eating lunch. Upstairs?
Upstairs?
Yes. So like I said earlier, this used to be snack area, lunch area, but y'all will actually get to go upstairs. The kids will not. So that whole area upstairs will be where you will have breakfast, lunch, snacks, any of that stuff will be up there and available for you. So Tuesday's lunch is Local Joe's Barbecue. Wednesday is Honey Baked Ham, and Thursday will be Chick-fil-A. So, and if you need a salad, those will be available too. Trying to think of anything else. Have I missed anything?
So breakfast would be available by 7:30. It'll also be upstairs. You know where healthcare used to be? Well, that's all going to be for you guys. That's where our hospitality room is going to be. All those rooms where healthcare used to be. So you won't be crammed in this one small room anymore. Breakfast will be by 7:30, but if you get here at 7:15, it's probably going to be ready to go. So coffee and drinks and water and all that will be up there.
Tuesday is VIP from 8:30 to 9:30.
Wednesday is VIP breakfast, and so we start a little bit later, so the rotations are a little bit different than Tuesdays. That's going to be upstairs. If you want to come into the VIP breakfast, that's fine. If you want to come in and get some breakfast, but you don't want to go in there for the hoity-toity stuff, then there's going to be a room across the hall. Yeah, I just went there, didn't I? There will be another room across the hall if you just want to come in and get a bagel and just go sit and enjoy a few moments of peace and quiet or something. So I'll sit down now.
No, you're good. All right, now we're going to let Daniel Spencer come and talk to y'all a little bit about some of our students that may need assistance and how to assist them. Yes. Okay.
All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to be engaging, you'll have some students, you'll be interacting with students who have disabilities. The schools from the Alabama School for the Deaf and the Blind will be here, as well as you'll have students with disabilities who will be coming from the other schools that will be here. And so it's important that we want to make sure that they feel included in the event. And so one of the things, actually, Lisa, I was thinking about was that maybe we can use the upstairs as or even down here we need a sensory area, because there may be some students who may just become very overwhelmed with all that's going on. And so we can have a place that we can send them to where they can kind of gather themselves until they feel better and they can go back out. So, but it's important. We want to make them feel, make sure that they feel included. And so I want to share just a few things. So with interacting with, there are going to be the students from the School for the Deaf, they will have interpreters with them. So it's important we understand. I want to just share with you just a couple of tips with interacting with those students. So can you come up here? I just need a volunteer. So let's see how we're going to do this. Jessica's going to be the interpreter. You'll be the student who's deaf.
Okay.
Who would I, as the presenter or the volunteer, if I want to communicate, I'm communicating with the person who's deaf, who would I speak to? Do I speak to the student or do I speak to the interpreter?
Student.
Why would I speak to the student?
Because you're talking to her, the interpreter's listening.
Okay, and it's very common, very easy that you can easily begin communicating with the interpreter and you forget about the student. And sometimes those of you who have children or who have your children were smaller, and you're talking to your child and they're all over, no, look at me. And sometimes you want to say, hey, Lord, look at me. But it's important that, because they're going to be, the person who's deaf is going to be looking at the interpreter. And so you're like, look at me. But that's how that interaction works. Thank you. There may be students who may use wheelchairs. And in that event, please do not ask them to hold your purses. Please don't ask them to carry stuff for you. Don't push them. But that wheelchair is considered an extension of them. It's a part of them. So when you're speaking to them, you would either stoop down, or if there's a chair available, you want to get at their level so that you're able to communicate and speak with those students. Are there any questions?
Well, will that professional that's with that student, that will be the person that will determine as to whether or not that child needs to take a break or that child needs to be pulled away from the group. So you just kind of look to that person to decide what's too much. Is it too much of a crowd? Is it too much of space? So it's just really, I guess, trusting that expert as to whether to pull back or how much to engage.
Yes, most schools have assistants with those particular students that pretty much stay with them for the day, for a school day. They stay with them, and I'm sure they would accompany them on this trip, and so they would help that. But we would just need to make sure we're able to direct them, because they may need us to direct them to where we could send that student to. That's a good question.
But if one student has to be pulled away, there will be somebody there still with the remaining students
Oh,
who
yeah.
need to
Yes, sir.
still be a part.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
They generally come with more of a one-on-one
Right.
kind of, or more professionals with them than our traditional schools do.
Yeah. And some of these students, even the ones in the schools, they are paid school employees
Yeah.
who stay with that student if it's a one-on-one type deal. So they'll be there. Any other questions? Yes.
Daniel, if they're deaf, should I yell at them? Should I talk louder? Would that help?
No, there's no need to yell at someone who's deaf. Now here's the assumption that everyone who's deaf can't hear. That's not true. Everybody, because you have deaf and then you have hard of hearing. You may, and some can actually speak. Some read lips. So again, you don't need to yell at them. But what you want to do is you want to make sure, one of the things you don't want to do, because you may have a sheet of paper in your hand, those of you who may be class guys, and you may So you don't want to do this and you speaking to them because they can't see what you're saying or understand. So, and Carl, do you want to add any other? Did I hit the high point?
You hit that really well. Just make sure if you're talking to somebody who's hard of hearing or deaf, that you are looking at them. You're not turning away or turning your back to them while you're speaking. And in my case, I will ask you to speak up a little bit. I've gotten past the point of being embarrassed. I will say, I can't understand you. Will you speak up a little bit, please? And when they do, most people, when I do that, they talk softer. I don't know. So if you don't have to yell, but you do want to enunciate a little bit better and maybe bring your voice up a little bit, and don't let an aggravation. Don't make it sound like it was an aggravation that you're having to repeat yourself to them.
Don't take things too seriously. Here's another thing, don't assume. So you may have a student in a wheelchair that may not want you to open the door for them. So you always want to ask first. Don't assume. Ask, may I help you, instead of just opening the door. Because I'm going to tell you, I had an experience when I was in college, and we had a classmate that was in a wheelchair, and he rolled over a lot of our feet and rolled his neck because he did. You already know. So, hey, do not assume. Please don't assume. Any other great questions? Any other questions?
Are they blind students or just deaf students?
There may be blind students. They may also, again, the assumption is all students who are blind. So you have blind, you have low vision. So you have those that, there's just different types of vision situations. You may have some that can only look straight down. You may have some that have no peripheral. They just vary. So, but they will have individuals that will walk with them. They also have those students who are blind will have walking canes. So please, they're not gonna hit you. Don't be afraid of it. But they will just make sure that the areas, we want to make sure the areas that they're walking in are clear. And then we're also able to describe. You can describe, when you're describing for a student who's totally blind, you want to describe things in a clockwise fashion. You know, like this area is at 5 o'clock, or the construction area, or this activity is at 2 o'clock. You know, you want to describe it in that fashion. And you don't have to give it in detail, everything in detail, just as long as you're not running that student into something. So we want to make sure that we are descriptive and that you do describe things for them. Good question. Yes.
So if you are here on an 8th grade day, the School for Deaf and School for Blind, Helen Keller School, and we've got some students from Pell City that are also coming. They will be in a zone pretty much by themselves, you know, with low vision, you know, and as 8th graders, we want to give them every opportunity possible to experience those hands-on activities. So they pretty much are in a zone by themselves. We don't want to segregate them and keep them away from other students, but we just want to give them the best possible chance. So they would be pretty much together. We have a couple that are in wheelchairs or a motorized wheelchair or canes that are with their school, maybe Pleasant Valley or Spring Garden. If it's the 11th grade day, School for Deaf, School for Blind are all mixed in. As 11th graders, you know, they're getting a little more, they know a little more, and can kind of stand up a little bit more for themselves. And so we've talked with the School for Deaf, School for Blind, AIDB, to make sure that what we do, fits them. We offered to bring the 11th graders on the 8th grade day, and they said, no, we want our 11th graders to come on the 11th grade day. And we're very happy to accommodate that.
Yes, and it's important. Let me share with you just a couple of employment facts. So since the pandemic, the unemployment rate for individuals with disabilities, it has actually gone down because more and more people, more and more businesses are beginning to be more open, and we hear the term diversity, equity, inclusion. They wanting to include and have a more diverse workforce. Now, the unemployment rate for people with disabilities before the pandemic was like 2-3 times that of an individual without a disability. Well, even though there have been some gains, we still need to continue. We need to work towards that place where we're including everybody and considering everybody. So I encourage you, let me encourage you and challenge you with your biases and perceptions. Let me encourage you and let you know that there's so many things that individuals, so many jobs, and they're smart, they're brilliant, and not all disabilities are ones that you see. Actually, with our program, 80% of the people on our program have a non-visible disability. They may have a learning disability. They may maybe an individual who had a stroke, or maybe an individual who have those are disabilities that fall under the ADA, and so it's important that we make sure that we feel included. But we also giving these kids hope. Let them determine. Let them decide. What they can and can't do. But you open your mind up and see that there are definitely opportunities that can exist for them. And this type of event is one of those things that can really open a door for a lot of our students.
And how might we be careful as to whether or not we're found using the word disability? That probably should not be a word that we say, or is that a word that we say? I just, just that day.
Okay, so
in dialogue with someone and someone having me step, do you
I'm
use
glad
that
you
word
said
or
that.
not use that word?
So we want to use people first language. So I'm not going to identify someone as, look at that blind student over there. I'm going to say a student who's blind. Now the only group of people we don't use that with is individuals, the students who have autism, and that's because autistic people feel like that's who they are, and so it's okay saying autistic person. That's acceptable. We don't want to use the word handicap. We don't want to use the word retarded, crippled. Those words are outdated terms. Again, we want to focus on that person. You don't want anybody to focus on. If I use, for example, you don't want nobody to focus on you and say, look at that stealing Tom over there. Because immediately what I'm thinking about first, he steals. Tom steals. So you want to make sure that we are using person first language. The word handicap came from individuals who came from war. And what they would do is a lot of them had no homes, nowhere to go, no jobs, no families. And so what they would do is they would assign them corners to stand on and give them these big hats with these brands around it, hence the term cap in hand. And so an individual with a disability, and so you can say that an individual with a disability, a person with a disability, that's why we don't want to use the word handicap, because it says that it makes that person feel like I'm looking for a handout, I'm begging, or I need someone to help me out, when it's not that at all. So hopefully, did I answer you?
You did.
Okay. Any other questions?
If
Yes.
I may too, since you mentioned autism, something else new is half of this room is going to be blocked off for the school nurses. All the schools bring school nurses with them. So there will be an area here if a student has an issue that the school nurses can bring them into a private area. We'll see some autistic students and some students who have anxiety problems or things like that that are just mixed in with the general class crowd that may have some kind of issue. And that's why everybody who's got a radio needs to keep the radio on and remember that they've got a radio.
Yes.
And so that you can make a call to somebody if you see something happen, so that so we can get help over there. But there is an area for the school nurses to have a private area with their students if they need it.
In the event of a crisis or episode, it's important that you stay calm. You stay under and you support that child. Don't say, hey man, this reminds me of my uncle. No, don't talk about uncle and aunt and this and that. No, don't compare situations, because with every disability, there are varying levels and degrees to that. So no one is the complete same, and no one person processes it just like the other person is. So it's important you use supportive words. Hey, how can I support you? How can I help you? Is there someone that we make sure you use positive and supportive words and be calm if there's a situation or episode with that student?
I just got a question with that. We have walkies. Are we using any codes, or it's just like we need a medic, or 'cause
Just-
it seems like every year
Just real words. Yeah.
we need a medic. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to add on to that your zone monitors in every zone. If you do have a kid that last year, this is when this all kind of came about, we had a lot of kids that seemed to just have panic attacks. They weren't used to, and then we realized the 8th graders we had last year hadn't been in big crowds. Like, they were your COVID kids, and I hate to say that, but they had not been in big crowds. This was the first time that they had been back in person in a big crowd, and they freaked out. And that's not their fault. I mean, they just were used to being at home. They were, so if we do have a kid that has a panic attack or has an issue, your zone monitors will also have a bright yellow vest on. So just find that person, know they have a walkie-talkie, they can get a medic. The teachers will be intermingled. Always just grab a teacher. So we'll make it work.
And I think I heard Lisa say this last year. The good thing is that this may be the best place for a person to have if they have one, because
Everybody's
we
here.
have a whole lot of first responders here. We have a whole lot of first responders, so yes.
I'm glad y'all killed the up and down, because they lose their minds in that hallway. Until they get in that hallway, and somebody will say, "How loud can you scream?" And somebody will challenge them, and they just lose it between the top floor to bottom. Just in that stairwell, they lose it. They get it together after they come out of there, but then the stairwell.
Well, let me share this with you. I would prefer that better than I volunteered with another region, and they had about 4,000 students, and it was all in one big area, and one of the students turned the lights out.
Oh my gosh.
So you had all these students screaming.
Don't jinx it.
So yes,
And we don't feed them, right?
No.
Because we've had situations where parents have come and dropped off food and have you looking for children.
DoorDash.
Or DoorDash.
I dealt with it.
They will try to DoorDash.
I'm just like, wait a minute.
Yes.
I don't.
They will try to DoorDash.
Exactly. I was like, your parents bring you lunch every day?
So schools, I believe, a lot of schools there's schools that are going to come early, and they already have it set up to eat out at the pavilions or on their bus or wherever. So that has already been worked out. So that shouldn't be the case.
We don't feed kids, teachers, or bus drivers. Volunteers. All right. Well, thank you, Daniel. One more thing I'm going to add. When you come to check in on the day you volunteer, try not to bring stuff with you because we don't have anywhere to hold that stuff. So if you're going to bring your purse, make sure it's a crossbody that you can carry with you. To our volunteers who haven't picked up shirts yet, if you're going to be picking up your shirt the day you volunteer, make sure you wear something that you can just throw that t-shirt on over and that you're not having to fully change clothes, because I don't have anywhere to keep your clothes. Yes, ma'am.
Can I pick up shirts for the Talladega office as well?
Yeah, you can.
Jessica, do you by chance have a schedule to where we might see when certain schools are coming?
I do. I can send it to you. Okay. Lisa will send me an updated one, and then I will send it to you. All right. Anything else?
Oh, I will. I'll give this to Jessica. It's like a disability etiquette, language and disability that she'll send out to everybody.
Yes. I'm going to send out another recap email just because I know it's a lot of information to throw at you. And just so you kind of remember what's happening when.
And you have much more volunteers than what's in this room, right?
Yes. We have, I think we're up to 170. I need 203.
Well, we probably pulled a couple. Because we don't need quite,
Oh yeah, because a few of the schools. Yeah, so I need about 200. So if you know anybody that still wants to volunteer, we will be more than happy to take them on Tuesday or Wednesday. Thursday is all full. But you can still go to that sign up link and volunteer or send that out to people. All right, well, I thank you so much for volunteering. We literally could not make this happen without you. You do not know how important you are. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Anything else? That's it.